podcast hosts Gabe and Leo discuss topics that directly and indirectly affect the LGBTQ plus community. Their generation gap has them seeing the world through very different points of view. They fight, they argue, they laugh, and they get off topic. But they make sense. Most of the time. Are you ready for this episode of Let's Talk Trans? Well, let's get started.
It's utterly insane. I really think that I'm going to have to redo that intro. Not only because Leo doesn't podcast with me too terribly much, but boy has my voice changed since we started doing these. So, welcome to this night's episode of Let's Talk Trans. I'm your host, Gabriel, and I have to tell you, what a phenomenal month that it has been. I know that I was hoping to, podcast while I was going through the transition of top surgery, but it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was way more painful than I thought it was going to be, and I just wasn't in the right mindset. So, but things have calmed down here a little bit as far as healing process, as far as football, and a couple of other things. So I had the time, and I figured, you know what, let's do a podcast tonight. Why the heck not? And yeah. So let's reverse a little bit. A couple of things we're going to discuss tonight, or I'm going to discuss tonight, is one, I need a co-host. Two, top surgery, because that did in fact happen. No, I'm not in the studio shirtless. Just getting that out of the way. Three, some really weird things have been happening. Some of my personal experiences since top surgery, and I thought I would share them with you guys because some of them are just downright hilarious, and some of them I still kind of have that gaping jaw mentality from. So let's start out with top surgery. So for those of you who haven't been listening, or maybe you're just listening in for the first time, I had top surgery April 21st. It was a Friday. And my daughter, Kai, took me to surgery. And that was an amazing experience. And so it was. Now, I'm going to put point blank. I'm a big person. I have a dad bod. So they took out some, it was side boob. We're going to call it what it is. There's no polite way of saying that word or that terminology. They did take some of the side stuffing out. And so what was supposed to be a 2-hour surgery was actually more like 6 hours. There was a lot of muscle work that they did, some nerve issues, and they really were in there, and they were very meticulous about the work, which is phenomenal. I absolutely love the fact that that's what they did. I went under about 9:15 in the morning, and I woke up around 4. Now, for those of you going, well, 4, that's not 6 hours. No, it's not. You're absolutely right. But let's take in the point where, I went under before I even was wheeled into the OR, and I did not come out from anesthesia while in OR. So we're going to assume it's about 6 hours. That's what I was told. It was about 6 hours. I was genuinely terrified about the nips. I was terrified of having pepperoni nips, and it was a like I said, it was a very enlightening experience. I was down for a week, bed rest, the pillows, the whole 9 yards. Hurt to move. I felt like a T-Rex, like I couldn't get my arms much higher than her. I was like, "Ah, give me this, give me that," and I would point to weird things. My kids would look at me like I was nuts. But Leo was fabulous. Leo helped me replace gauze. He helped me put on ointments. Anything and everything that I possibly needed, Leo was there for, which I was so thankful for. He also, fortunately, not unfortunately, but he saw the stuff that I don't think any of us talk about, the mass amounts of pain that I was in, the nerve pain that came along with it. He saw the ports, the tubes, the oozing, the gunk, the 9 yards. The nastiness of it. He saw that it wasn't just I don't know, what we talk about on social media. It wasn't like, hey, I'm shirtless now, woohoo. He saw it. And so, because he saw it, because he saw what I was going to what I went through, he has opted out of top surgery, at least for now. Which I'm fine with. That's absolutely fine. His life is his walk. He's not even 16 yet, so, I'm glad that he's, comfortable enough to be able to go, hey, look, maybe that's not what I want. And in the same breath, I'm glad that I went through it before he did, so that he's aware that it's not what he wants. But that being said, after about a week, I went back to work. I had one drainage tube came out, and I went to work with one in. So I was not able to return to full duty. I still had T-Rex arms. And it was weird. I had numbness. For anybody who's experienced this, I don't know if everybody's experience is the same, because nobody ever seems to talk about it, but I was numb. Not necessarily in the... I'm actually funny because I'm actually patting my chest right now. Not in the front, not where my pectorals are, but along the sides, where all that boob fat was. They had to get in, and I guess with some nerves that they were working with, they had to cut away some of it, and so there was some nerve, I don't want to say damage or whatever, but the nerves are a little stunned. And so even now, even though it's been a month, oh my gosh, 2 months actually at this point now, almost 2 months since the surgery, I have very limited sensation underneath the arm. It's kind of interesting. So I do have full range, though. At this point, I am right back to work, and so the funny thing is, and I have nips. The graft was successful. There was a couple extra things that they had to do because I had such large. I was a breastfeeding parent at the time, or not at the time, but at one point, and so my those areas, I can't say that word. It's funny, I can't say that word on the radio, so I can't use the N word. Yeah, it's bad. Apparently, all N words are bad on the radio. But so they had to do some extra work in and around to make them look more realistic. Don't get me wrong; they're not perfect. If anything, they're actually a little cockeyed. They're straight, but the N word is not center mass. It's kind of, they're both off to the side a little bit, but whatever. I have them. I don't care. And yes, for those of you who've asked that question, I have already been in the pool. Well, I was in the hot tub shirtless, and it was amazing. It was truly amazing. I can't lie. I am a people pleaser, I guess, in some regard. So I was at my mother's house, and I did say, hey, look, is everybody okay with this? Does anybody mind this? And my mother was like, no, go ahead, do what you need to do, whatever makes you feel comfortable. I was thankful for that. It truly was. So that was, like I said, that was like middle of May. Had some, football games on Saturdays and what have you, and like I said, continuing to heal. Fast forward to this past weekend where I was at my father's house for a graduation party for my little brother. Yes, I have little brothers. And my dad and I were sitting on the side of the pool and just dangling our feet in. He was shirtless, which, go dad at 66. And I was, in shorts and a t-shirt. And we were talking about the conversation because he'd asked me about, my opinions on transgender athletes and transgenders in the restroom. And, it was my dad's a teacher. It was a very intellectual conversation. It was not, not negative. It was not opinionated. It was two adults having a mutual conversation, simply trying to understand the other person's point of view. And, I made the comment, I at first I kind of smoothed down my shirt and said, how do I look? He said, well, you look like a guy. That's the point, right? Yes, absolutely. And he said, so have you gone shirtless? And I told him about Nana's house, my mom's. And he said, but I'm not going to do it here. And I told him the reason being is my brother's children were there, one of which being, I think he's 3 or 4. And his oldest is a teenager, but nonetheless, I said, I don't want my scars to scare. I don't want them to be scared, because they're still scars. They still look, fairly red. I said, and the other thing is that's not a conversation that those kids are ready to have, or their parents aren't ready to have. They don't need to, hey, why does Uncle Gabe have those big scars? What happened to Uncle Gabriel that he has that? That's not a conversation that I'm sure my brother's ready to have. So I didn't want to force that. And my dad and I used, some of those terms like indoctrination and grooming. And I was the one who used them, but I said, that's not what I am. That's not what I'm about. That's not. I don't want to force conversations and throw the topic out there. So the easiest way for me to do that is to just leave a shirt on for now. I can do that when I get home. And there was a respect that kind of came across my dad's face that hadn't been there before. Not as if my father has ever disrespected me or anything to that effect, but it was a level of appreciation for the fact that I thought about others' comfort before I thought about my own in this regard. I was thinking about children. Now, my dad is a teacher and he teaches high school level. My teaching specialty is in elementary, but I work with adults. But that doesn't mean that, I don't, perceive kids on a different level. Kids are brilliant, and kids are, delightfully innocent in most cases. And I don't want to, I'm not saying to corrupt that or anything, but I don't want to complicate that in any way, because it happens soon enough. So there's no point, and like I said, I didn't want to scare them. And the thing that was funny was my dad had hip surgery earlier, months ago, and I think it was back in December, actually. But the thing that was funny was he immediately checked his thigh, to make sure that his scar wasn't showing, because he hadn't thought in that direction. And he said that. He's like, I didn't even think about it. He's grabbing for his hip. I'm like, Dad, no offense, but, looking at the Cheshire cat on my chest, which is how I relate to my scars, because it does look like a cat's face. It looks like a cat's smile. It's considerably different than, your hip on your leg. And we got a good laugh out of it, but it was. So, it like I said, it's been a mixed bag experience. They do want to consider going in and doing some contouring later, assuming that the nerves don't heal. I'm not sure I'm ready for that, because I know how bad this past round hurt, but we'll see what happens. They said about 6 months to a year before I have full nerve recovery. So for those of you who are considering top surgery, take into consideration that, you'll get back on your feet in a week, but you're nowhere near 100% in a week. You're nowhere near 100% in a month. So just, as wonderful as it is, and I'm not saying it's not, and as free as I feel, 7 pounds lighter, my back is thankful. It is what it is. I mean, and I'm by no means a spring chicken. So it take me a little longer to heal. I don't know. I don't think so. But it's definitely an experience that should not be taken lightly. So again, not talking anybody out of anything, merely sharing my experience on the topic. So that being said, the whole thing has changed some perspectives of me in the view of other people. You guys know, or if you didn't know, I own a semi-pro football team here in town, and we've had a phenomenal year. We just wrapped up our season this past weekend. We were 9-2. We lost first round playoffs to a really, really good, a very competitive team, and I'm proud of the guys for doing what they've done. We were invited to scrimmage an actual professional team, an arena team, and right now we kind of have to lick our wounds and heal up a little bit before we take them up on that, but we do want to take them up on that. That being said, we've had a huge following, a huge fan base, which I'm delighted. And one of our fans is a young man, and he was introduced to me. I was introduced to him. Nobody considered anything else. And on Saturday, one of our coaches had hurt. He'd pulled a muscle in his pecs, and he was grabbing his chest, and he was saying how uncomfortable it was. And I said, well, where does it hurt? And he went to point, instead of touching himself where it hurt, he went to touch me, and I quickly jerked away, because there's still some scarring there, and I am still, because of the nerve pain, I don't feel a whole lot, so it's kind of the nerve endings are still a little weird, and I jerked away. And this young man who had been with us saw me and said, well, what's wrong? I said, well, I have scars. I have some scar tissue and some stuff like that. It's not the same. And he looked at me. He's like, well, Gabe, what do you mean? And I pulled up my shirt slightly so he could see the scars. I said, I have scars there. And his eyes got the size of saucers. He's like, Gabriel, what happened? Oh, my God, are you okay? And it realized there was that epiphany, that moment, that look on his face when I went, oh, crap. He doesn't know. And I went, you know what? Let's have a conversation. And so I pulled him aside in the middle of this game and said, you need to know something. And I proceeded to tell him. And I told him, I didn't. I said, I was born a girl. I said, I was born female. And he looked at me. He's like, no. And he literally, he starts running down the field. He's like, no. It was very clear that he had no concept, and I'm not even, he's a special needs young man that's neither here nor there. Then immediately goes to his mother, and I can see him making gestures about across his chest, and I had to walk over to him and go, shh, we don't talk about it, we don't tell people, we don't just blurt that out to everybody. And we got a bit of a laugh out of it because he asked me if I would photograph his flag football team, and he looked at me and goes, well, are you still going to, take pictures of the team? And I went, do you still want me to? He's like, of course. I said, well, then I will. But it was funny because I was worried about the conception that, suddenly, because he knew that I was a transgender individual, that he would suddenly no longer want me to do those pictures. And I was, of course, completely in the wrong. And he thought that because he had reacted in the way that he had to finding out that I was a transgender individual, that I would not want to take those pictures anymore. It's kind of an interesting reaction, not one that I would expect from another person, but it was a very cool interaction. And one that helped cement a little bit more for me, that the fact that I am presenting much more clearly now as a guy. And less like a woman, which is nice. I mean, I think that's kind of again, as Lisa says, for those of us who are transitioning from, female to male, that's kind of the point. So it was really nice to see that, and it was a plus. It was really nice. It kind of stamped out a little section of that gender dysphoria, that I'd been experiencing at work and things like that. Speaking of work, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to anyway. Today I had a coworker make a comment about the fact that I'm a veteran. Okay, for those of you who didn't know, I served in the United States Navy 8 years, and I'm very proud of my service. There's nothing, I was 18 years old when I joined. I was probably not the best and the brightest, but I served my country, and I was proud to do it. My grandfather served before me. My stepdad was in. I think I have a brother-in-law who was in. My ex was in. But anyway, so I had made a comment on a social media post about my service. Primarily the fact that, I am a transgender veteran, and I fought for your rights to dislike me. That's your right, and I'm proud to have said that I, helped defend that right. And a coworker saw it and made the comment that wasn't me. That I can't, as Gabriel, I can't claim veteran status because when I was in the military, I was under my dead name. So I'm not the same person. And another coworker tried to explain the lunacy of that rationale. That it's not like Kimberly suddenly vanished and Gabriel appeared, and they're two different personalities and two different or anything like that. And she wouldn't have it. She absolutely would not have it. She was like, nope, Kimberly was who served and Gabriel did not. Gabriel's not a vet. Kimberly is. And well, the VA disagrees. I hate to tell you that. But the other thing that was, and I looked at her dead in the face. I said, well, here's the problem with that then. And I said, I'm just going to point this out. But if that logic works, then Gabriel's not a certified teacher and you can have my students. And the look on her face, she was like, I'm like, bye. No, that's not how that works. But it was flooring. Like, part of me wanted to go, like, really? Is that how you think? And she just, she was adamant that because I had served under, again, my dead name, that Gabriel was not the veteran. And it was really interesting. Like, I kind of had to go, hey, look, I was transgender back then. I just wasn't out. That Gabriel is out. Kimberly was not. That's the difference. And like I said, it was weird. Like, I don't understand that rationale, but then I couldn't even pretend to. Like, I couldn't go, hey, look, there's a reason behind that, or that makes sense in this regard. There was no, I'm like, no, nope, can't. There's no way to rationalize that. I don't even pretend to understand. And for those of you who are asking, no, she's not blonde. No. And yes, she's educated. So, that's a lot. I've been talking like nonstop. I need a drink of soda, because that's what I drink. I gotta tell you, every so often I go on the speaker, the website platform that we use for the broadcasting, and I look and see who's listening and where they're listening from. Not that I can see individual people, but I've noticed an uptick in Facebook likes on our Facebook page, and so I wanted to go on and see where, the vast majority of people who have been listening to the podcast this month are out of Texas. I'm always floored. Like I said, it always amazes me as to where I'm looking, or where what's the word I want to use? Where we're popular. Maybe that's the word I want to look at. Like, where we're popular, who's listening, where people are listening from, and like, it's funny, states where the LGBTQ community is welcome, California, Nevada, here in PA. I get 1-2% of my downloads, not a big deal. But then, like, the Heartland and Texas and Florida, we get these astronomical amounts of followers, and it's just absolutely insane. So I have to say, I truly have to say thank you to the people who are out there in Texas who are listening to us. So those of you that are in Kyle, Texas, and those of you that are in Dallas, Texas, I really have to say thank you. Thank you for listening into us. And for those of you in Florida, Gainesville, and unfortunately it just tells me other, but I want to thank you. So I've got people in Ohio, we've got people in Columbus and Dayton listening in, Oklahoma City, you're listening in too. And this is probably a new one for us, Massachusetts, you're listening in, and we got to thank you. Those of you that are in East Bridgewater, Dennis, and I'm probably going to screw this one up. It looks like North Attleboro. Attleboro. I hope that's correct. But like I said, I want to say thank you guys. We've got people all over the country. It's fabulous to have people all over the country who like to listen in and do listen in, and we're so thrilled to have you. We love having people all over the world, and we do. We have listeners all over the country, all over the United States. We have listeners in Canada. We have listeners in Australia, and the Philippines, Malaysia. We love listening to you guys. We love hearing from you guys. We have listeners in Belgium. And that's just, like I said, that's just in the last month. If I go back further, which is insane, if I go back in the last 12 months, United States, Canada, Mexico, Ecuador, Spain, France, England, the UK, Sweden, Russia, Saudi Arabia, which gets me. We actually had a listener in from Saudi Arabia. India, again, I absolutely love, all of the people that listen in, even if they only listen in for a spec. They're like, maybe they just pick up for a blip to see what's going on. I truly do appreciate and love that, we hear from you, or that you hear from us. So that being said, all right, what was else I got to talk about? Okay, so top surgery, talked about that. I need a co-host. So here's what I'm going to start doing. So, what I want to do is I'm going to start like looking for someone to just kind of pre-record podcast with me, and we'll go back and forth and see if we can't find maybe a permanent co-host. Because, no offense, but it's fun, but it's not quite as much fun one-sided. So, I would love to have a co-host, and it could be anybody. It doesn't even have to be a person that's LGBTQ. I mean, it could be a cisgender individual, or straight, or shoot, anybody. As long as, the chemistry's there, I'm all for it. Why not? All right. So that's what we're going to do as far as the co-hosting thing goes. Now, I have a question for you. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. If you, in your transition, okay, or if you know somebody who has transitioned or is considering transitioning, or coming out as transitioning, I should say, once they get to the point where they pass, whether they're passing for female or passing for male, do you feel that they are obligated, do you feel that you are obligated to inform people that you are in fact transgender or a transgender individual? There are some people who don't like it as a noun. I don't know. Let me reiterate the question. If you pass as transgender, if you pass as the transitioned you, right? So in other words, Gabriel passes for Gabriel, I no longer appear female. Do you feel that I am obligated, do you feel that you are obligated to tell other people that you are in fact transgender or a transgender person? It's a gray area. Some people are like, yes, be open, be honest, absolutely. Others are like, only with your intimate partner, somebody you plan on being intimate with, especially if you don't have all the equipment associated with your gender. And then there are others like, no, whatever, that's up to you. So I'm hoping that anybody who listens to this particular podcast, whether it's on Spreaker or Spotify or, oh my God, where else do we hear it? Amazon. So many places to pick up our podcast. It's horrible that I don't remember them all. But wherever you pick up the podcast, wherever your source is, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Audible, it's amazing the places you can actually hear our podcast. But wherever you're listening, wherever your source is, what I would ask you to do is to find a way to, again, get with us on our Facebook page, share on Spotify, again, wherever, and let me know your opinion on this. I'd love to hear it. I think what I'm going to go do actually is right now on the podcast, or not on the podcast, on the podcast page, I can, rubber duckies. On the podcast page, what I'm going to go do here is I'm actually going to put a poll. And on this poll, I think I can put a poll on here. I should be able to put a poll on here. Let's see if I can put a poll. I don't know if I can. We're going to try it, though. Yeah. No. I don't know. It doesn't look like it's going to let me. I want to put a poll on here. How do I put a poll? Poll. You know what? I'll just ask the question. Tonight's podcast. Transgender individual. Man, I wish I could individual. You can't, you know what? It's hard when you're like talking and typing at the same time. It's just your body doesn't want to do both. If you appear desired gender, are you obligated? Are you to let others know you are a transgender individual. As a transgender individual, if you appear the desired gender, if you pass, how about this? If you pass for your desired gender, are you obligated to let others know you are transgender? You think? There we go. Okay, not now. We'll leave it there. And so it's on the podcast page right now. I'll leave it there for a couple of days, and then the next time we do the podcast, hopefully, not in the next millennia, but in the next couple of days, we'll be able to actually see what you guys say. See what you guys think. La 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 la. I can't talk. It's nuts. All right. So, anything fun and exciting? It is June. Happy Pride Month. I hope that everyone has the opportunity to go to a Pride Festival in their area. I hope you all stay safe for your Pride Festivals. Our Pride Festival here locally is in 2 weeks. So it's not next Sunday, which is Father's Day. It's Sunday after that, which I wholeheartedly admit we're absolutely looking forward to going to it. My kids and I went and we bought all the Pride fans we could find. And we plan on giving them out to the drag queens at the event. That's going to be our little thing. And then here in PA, we're going to start gearing up for the Renaissance Fair, which will be in September for us, because our favorite drag queen is there, and we absolutely love her, and we want to hang out with Lady Lilith, so that's what we're going to do. But between now and then, it's, the usual. Work, play, work, football, pictures. Blah. All right, anyway, enough of that. So, that wraps it up. I want to know your opinion. I want to know if you pass for your desired gender, do you feel like you have to tell someone? Are you obligated? Or should you just let the conceptions fly? Ooh, conceptions. Misconceptions. Oh, wait, buckets. I quit. Oh, that's it. I'm done. Okay. Not conception. That's something completely different. All right. So, in the meantime, I'm going to go find a co-host. I hope you have a great night. I hope you enjoy yourself. I hope you feel safe. I hope you'll be proud of yourself. Remember, you are absolutely amazing the way you are. All right. If you are hanging out in the closet, that's okay too. Be safe in there. Be comfortable. Don't come out until you're ready. We still love you. All right. Take care of yourself. You be true to yourself, and we will see you next time. All right. This is Gabriel. Enjoy your night. Us on this episode of Let's Talk Trans. We hope you had fun. We know we did. If you like us and you want to hear more, follow us on Facebook, subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, or Google Podcast, or wherever it is that you get your podcast from. Until next time, stay true to you.